No, here's why. I was once watching Slash playing guitar, and boy, he was killing it. Then my mind raced into thinking about what it takes to become an expert at guitar, or not just guitar in particular, to become an expert at anything. So I did the nerdy research for you, and I got to know about the 10,000 hour rule, which is you need to practice 10,000 hours to become an expert. But that's not really true. Why? You'll know in a bit. It's a common rule of thumb popularized by Malcolm Gladwell in his bestseller Outliers, The Story of Success. The study found that the most accomplished students at the Music Academy in Berlin had put in 10,000 hours of practice before they were called expert. And Gladwell also estimated that Beatles also put in 10,000 hours of practice playing in Hamburg in the early 1960s. And the founder of Microsoft, Bill Gates, also put in 10,000 hours of programming before he founded Microsoft. Hence, the 10,000 hour rule was born. Put in 10,000 hours of practice in any given field and become an expert. Pretty easy, right?
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
But it's not end of the story. Turns out it's wrong. It's a misinterpretation of the research. But I'm not saying that. It's been said by Erickson. Who's Erickson? Gladwell used several examples in his book Outliers while explaining this study. And one was the research conducted by Erickson, which focused at violin student at Music Academy in Berlin. Erickson says that the number 10,000 is arbitrary. It sounds catchy, it's easy to remember, but it's not based on something substantial. The first flaw of 10,000 hour rule is that it focuses mainly on quantity of practice, not on the quality of the practice. And each practice is not equally helpful. On top of that, Gladwell misunderstood that 10,000 hours was just an average. Not every violin player has put in this much amount of time before he was called an expert. The truth is, it depends on your field and how you practice. Sometimes even 3,000-4,000 hours of practice is enough, and in many cases, it requires more than 10,000 hours, and that's totally okay. You should not worry about the hours. You should just go with the flow. Since the 10,000 hour rule is not based on solid science, now what do we know about how to master a field? Remember I told you about the nerdy research in the beginning? I also got to know that there are 3 major criteria that must be met in order to become an expert. And in cases where these criteria aren't met, it's almost impossible to become an expert. Here's 3 criteria that traditional institutions don't teach you, but you should technically know if you want to be an expert. Oh, that was a really long title. Okay, the first thing that you need to do is get started. It seems like a pretty lame advice, but many people don't acknowledge it when they start doing something new. Initially, try having fun and start building interest in the field. When asked Tim Ferriss, the author of 4-Hour Workweek, he said, do an 80-20 analysis and ask yourself, which 20% of these things would I need to learn to get 80% of the result that I want? And focus on those 20% things first. That will save you a hell lot of time. Start gathering some basic knowledge and start collecting some basic stuff that you'll need. And by basic stuff, I mean, let's consider you want to learn piano. So, should you get that cool piano learning website subscription first? Or should you get the piano first? You get the point. And if you don't have the money to buy one, just download one of these apps and start. What the fuck? No, don't try it. That won't work. Okay, enough. Let's get back to our criteria. One of the key components of achieving expertise is many repeated attempts with feedback. Without it, you don't know whether you're improving or not, or what you need to work on next. Best guitarists play thousands of riffs, the best physicists solve thousands of problems, and the best basketball players practice throwing thousands of times, and each one gets feedback. Guitarists get to know whether he played the riff correctly, the physicist get to know whether his solution was correct, and the basketball player get to know if he threw the ball into the net or not. And just don't listen to me because I did the nerdy research. The most unnerdy people in the world are also on the same page. Navy SEAL Platoon Commander James Waters also said that feedback is critical. After every mission, SEALs do a review of what happened to get feedback. Do they congratulate each other? No, they spend 90% of their time on focusing on things that they can do better next time, and the remaining 10% on congratulating, because that's also important. Let's assume we both don't know a fuck about martial arts. You go spend 100 hours reading books about martial arts, and I'll spend just 50 hours practicing fight moves. Who's going to win? You got the point. Our brains evolved to learn by doing things, not about hearing about them. This is one of the reasons that for a lot of skills, it's much better to spend time testing yourselves rather than absorbing that thing. So to achieve excellence in any field, you should be more focused on testing yourselves and getting feedback. Okay, let's assume that you are getting a quick feedback for each of your attempts, but you're trying to be an expert at gambling at roulette wheel. Well, you might have to reconsider that, because with quick feedback, you'll also need a valid environment. One that contains some regularities that makes it somewhat, you can say, predictable. A gambler betting at roulette wheel may have thousands of repeated experience with the same event, and they also get a quick feedback with each of their attempts in the form of whether they win or lose. But you would not consider them an expert because the environment in which they are, that's of low volatility. Unlike sports or music, you cannot learn from your attempt what you can do better next time. Many things are out of our hand in gambling. So don't try to be an expert at gambling, or you'll just regret it. Let's assume something again. You are getting a quick feedback with each of your attempts and you are in a valid environment. It might appear that now expertise is just practicing and practicing and practicing. You're right in some way that you need practice, but you need a special kind of practice, a different kind of practice, and that's called deliberate practice. When most of the people practice, they focus on things they already know how to do. But deliberate practice is different. Deliberate practice is putting your specific efforts on things that you cannot do quite well yet, or you cannot do at all. To get a deep understanding of deliberate practice, let's assume that you are learning guitar for the first time. In the early phases, you'll try to understand the basic chords, and you would try to avoid gross mistakes like playing guitar upside down or playing from the wrong hands. You will practice correctly placing your fingers on the fretboard, not playing the wrong note, and learning how to strum correctly in a surprisingly short time, perhaps 50 hours, or if you are as smart as I am, maybe in 5 hours, you will just learn the basic things of the guitar. Now you will practice just some basic level easy song until your fingers become automatic. You will think less about each strum and you'll try to play from intuition. Your guitar thing is now a social outing in which you occasionally concentrate on your fingers. From this point on, you have two options. You can choose comfortable practice or you can choose deliberate practice. Comfortable practice would mean that you will practice casually and more for fun without worrying about extending your range of skills. But on the other hand, deliberate by definition means that to be done consciously. Deliberate practice is gonna take a little bit more mental power and more effort from your side, and that's why especially many people don't take part in deliberate practice. Here you will mostly focus on extending your range of skills. Is comfortable practice bad? No, it's not bad. If you just want to learn guitar or any other thing just as your hobby, just to play in front of your family or friends, then that's totally fine. But if you want to be an expert guitarist, then deliberate practice is going to be a better choice. Deliberate practice requires a lot from your side, and therefore it also requires rest and recovery. It is interesting to note that among a wide range of experts, including novelists, artists, athletes, sportspersons, musicians, a very few of them appears to engage in deliberate practice for longer than 3-4 hours at a time. Truly speaking, being an expert is not an easy thing, and you should not think about it being one in a week or so. It requires much more than that. And it also requires consistency and hard work from your side. So make up your mind for that and get to work. And I also want to be an expert in 2-3 fields, so wish me luck. And that's it for this video. And meanwhile, clicking those like and subscribe button doesn't take deliberate practice. It's very easy. So do it now. And some people confuse perfectionism with expertism, and I've talked about perfectionism in this video. So you should definitely check it out, and I'll meet you there. Bye.